Today we're going to continue our journey of planking the upper deck. And to do that, we need to determine the width of the planks at various sections of the model. The center part of the model, the plank widths are almost exactly the same. There is slight variance, but basically the same. It tapers towards the bow and the stern, and we need to determine what that taper is. So to do that, we're going to take some measurements of key points of the model. We can see that after the aft hatch, the taper starts going down, and in the bow, the taper really starts after the fore hatch and accelerates just after the start of the mast partner. So the points that we're going to measure is at the stern, at the start of the taper, and in the bow to the right of the start of that taper. And what that shows is at the back, the taper will be 8 inches, then it comes up to roughly 10 inches, and it goes all the way across here, still at 10 inches, then it comes down to 9, and finally it's around 6 to 7 inches at where it meets the forward waterway. In terms of the length of these planks, I'm going to follow the plan that David has drawn out, and the length varies from 20 to 23 feet in length. They're meant to tie into a beam, but you can do anything you are comfortable with. I really love using this plane. It's perfect for tapering. We've just taken the clamps off, and you can see we've got a nice bend that's probably 95% on both sides. So that's pretty cool. We'll just stick that. Just showing you how the pre-bend fits so well on a model. Very slight, doesn't need a lot to pull it in place. Maybe right in the middle, I'll put some CA, and the same thing on the other side. Fits real nice and tight inside. A little bulge here, so you put some CA here and pull it in, and you get a nice tight line. So to make sure I get that right, I just marked both the piece I'm putting in and on the board that's there. So I know I'll put some CA here, and then there's PVA and the rest of it. Now we've reached one of the more interesting parts of the build, as we reach the last 4 planks between the center section and the waterway. And these are tapered on the inside following the shape of the planks, certainly in the bow and the stern. But then as it goes to the side of the boat, there are these strange cuts. They're actually straight lines. And Greg tells me that those were done to really support the cannons that move back and forward just in these spaces, and to provide additional support because of the weight of the cannons and the movement of the cannons. He also says that they were probably replaced quite often, so that they're different from the rest of the deck planks. This was a bit confusing, so I did a little bit of research again, and in the book Irene, Steele's book on naval architecture makes reference to top and butt planking and anchor stock planking, and then makes reference to the normal planks as using regular breadths. It says that top and bit planking was developed to reduce waste, particularly in British ships. It was not used on Dutch ships, and there's no question that it certainly made the join stronger. I've asked for some advice on how to go about this, other than trial and error, trying to fit certainly the first one. And the advice I've gotten is trial and error and try to fit them one by one. So that's what I'm going to do. Greg even feels that I might try to make these 4 planks off the model on the workbench and then fit. But I think that's going to be more problematic. Another suggestion, which we've used on other parts of the boat, is to in fact print these things out on a printer and cut out the various pieces and then stick them to pieces of wood and cut them to fit. There's no dimensions given to these things, and they probably were all done freehand. If steel is right to save wood, so that means they would have been different sizes. So I'm going to just cut them out on the model, fit them as I see fit. Start with oversized planks up to 20 inches. Take the dimensions given in David's plan layout of the deck and see how it goes. One of the techniques I've found to get this inside piece is actually to take the French ruler and get a rough idea of what it is on the paper template, and then come to the model itself and try and see how the French ruler fits in relation to what I've laid, and then cut a trial piece. You can see I've been able to fit the port side. The fit is, I would say, pretty good, right through, right down to the end. Now I'll show you me actually doing, cutting out the starboard side. So I'd go on the model if I can, or I can go on the plan, it doesn't really matter. We're going to cut the first one here, And what I'll do is move the ruler around until I get a good fit. It's better to do this on the model, and that's where I establish these two blue marks. And then from there, just to show you, I was able actually to establish on the model that this was the approximate mark. And so now I'll come and put the ruler on a piece of blank wood and just draw out a line which is going to give me an approximate curve. And just so you know, this one, which is taken from the port side, actually fits perfectly on the starboard side. You can see that it's very similar to that line. We've been going back and forward, adjusting it, and now we've got a nice tight fit. So that's a perfect line. So now we're going to make the triangular sort of cut. So we've established where we want the high point, and now we're going to just draw the line in, and I'm going to match this one up perfectly with the one on the other side. There's no magic measurement. And now we're just going to cut that down. And then to make sure we have a nice flat surface, and do the same thing on the other side. So I now have a very straight line here and a straight line here. This line in turn will be curved to fit the planks on the model already. And we line that up, and got a nice clean tight fit. And so now we can make the bow section. And after massaging it a bit, these 2 points line up perfectly. This lines up. We can now do the third one, which will be identical to this one. So here we have both sides cut. And in the morning, we'll take one good look at it and stick it. It's always good to think about things overnight. And so I was wondering whether I should have stuck it this morning or attempted to make up the plank while the pieces are off the model. I've decided to stick it. I'm sure I'll have a few challenges with that. But to try and make up the pieces off the model, they may not line up perfectly here. And so I'll probably end up making these pieces wrong anyway. So we're going to stick it. To solve the problem of being able to work out the angle, which will be unique to each of these, I made up this little gauge. This is a screw from a pair of glasses, and that's as thin as I can get it. And I hold it hard against the steep side and then just move this into position. And there's the angle. I'm sure I'm going to get asked a few questions about my clamping system. These rubber bands, really, they're just pulling the pieces gently against the inner plank. And this is my new boy I made up. I'm fooling around with this which is a clamp that has a much deeper throat so that I can get inside the boat. Of course, this too will soon reach its limitations because that's as wide as it can get. If some of you have developed some clamps similar that deal with this issue, I'd love to see them. This is my version of it. At some point in time, I might actually make up a metal version of this. Of course, you can use simple little chucks like I'm using here that just squeeze the board in, and doesn't have to be anything as sophisticated as this. This section has really taken a lot more time than I thought, and following my promise to you to record the build as it goes along, I'm going to bring this to an end, and we'll have a second section where we finish the last 3 of these deck strakes or deck planks, and then clean up as we go on. So we'll see you in the next video.